there you have it. In terms of resume templates, I'm giving it to Bard. It was more unique. What do you have to say? Please. Now you finished, bro.
I want to say you've been a good brother.
I'm putting that in. I'm putting that in. That's my twin.
Try to be a little quieter.
Welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to my room, right? This is actually going to be one of the few times you all get to see me in this room. I'm moving in a couple of weeks. But until then, enjoy, a broken LED light and a view of my well-made bed. Today we're doing something really crazy. We're comparing Chat GPT versus Google Bard. I haven't used Google Bard, but I went to the Google I/O conference and I was fascinated by Google Bard. I was, okay, what is it like? Where do I go to use it? What's it gonna give me in terms of responses back? There's a lot of differences, actually. They're small, but they're big between Chat GPT and Bard. And I just want to kind of get those out of the way first before I go into what we're going to be doing here today. Difference number one, Bard is connected to the greater internet or the greater web, which means it actually has the ability to access information that is present, that is now, that is real time or realer time, I guess. The other thing is Google Bard allows you to have microphone assisted speech or text to speech, which is amazing, and it makes it more accessible. My dad actually has a lack of ability to use his hands, and it would make it so that he couldn't really use a Chat GPT. But for Google Bard, you can actually use your microphone and input text to ask basically the Bard large language model questions, and I think that's really cool. Also, Google Bard does not really have a lot of documentation, right? It's not developer friendly in the way that ChatGPT is in terms of the training of models for custom and fine tuning purposes, in terms of just being able to access and read through public open documentation for developers. And in terms of SDKs, Google Bard is lacking on that department. Thought to myself, if I were to use ChatGPT versus Bard, what would I be comparing? Today, we're going to be looking at ChatGPT versus Google Bard in terms of resume templates and examples and general career advice or career searching advice, if I were to say. I have a whole comprehensive video on using ChatGPT to build out your resume, and if you want to take a look at that, take a look in the link in the description or click click this. The reason why I'm using career service and career type advice is because I myself used to be a career advisor working for my local college. I was trained to give information as well as to read resumes and cover letters, and that means I can fact check both these models to see which one is doing more in terms of precision, quality, and then of course seeing if they're at any point in time lagging in terms of speed. So let's get to it. This is next day, and I wanted to make a quick distinction that ChatGPT does work from my phone. For some reason, when I use it on my mobile phone, literally through the web, it actually works perfectly fine. I've never had a single issue. ChatGPT, the web version for mobile, and the playground actually give different stylistic responses. It's not completely the same. So I do want to make that distinction there. And you'll see that later on in the video. I do use ChatGPT from my phone to kind of get what a chat AI response would look like. Let's go ahead and take a look at, drumroll please, resumes. Now, we did this before. So if you've missed that video, again, go to the start of this video and click on that link and watch 13 minutes or more of a comprehensive guide. Don't do that if you don't have the time, but if you are trying to use GPT or Google Bard to build a resume and you don't know where to get started, I have a comprehensive guide for you. It's here, it's free. Hey, do what you gotta do, okay? For a software engineering role, okay? Simple, sweet. I'm going to go ahead and copy that, and we're going to run it in Bard first, but then I'll just directly paste that into ChatGPT or the playground for ChatGPT. Now notice the microphone icon allows for me to actually say this text instead of typing it, which again, I love that for accessibility. Google Bard, hats off to you. Cool. So it gives me a template, name, email, phone, LinkedIn summary. Now, this is interesting because this is very specific because you might not need a GitHub if you're not a software developer. Then again, I did ask for a software engineering role. So I actually am impressed that it would then add both my LinkedIn and my GitHub. That is nice. Now, the structure and the formatting isn't the best. You're never going to want to do this, but in terms of the what I call a resume header, it has everything I need. Gives me a summary section, gives me a work experience section, and if I'm not mistaken, it's also bolding these. That's actually really nice. That's really nice. I might be wrong, but it looks like these are being bolded. List your educational background. Now, education and work experience either go up, they basically can be used interchangeably in terms of the placement. You can have education first, you can have work experience first. It depends on your situation. If you have been out of school for like 5-10 years, maybe your education is not as relevant, or if you're switching to a completely different career field, yeah, your education might not be as relevant. But a lot of jobs do require a bachelor's, so I like to put it first just because it's usually a requirement, like a hard requirement, and there's just no way of getting around not having a degree. Skills. List your technical skills. And again, technical skills. Do not use soft skills on your resume. Technical skills. Including programming languages, software development tools, blah, blah, blah. You can include soft skills such as communication, teamwork, and problem solving. You can. I wouldn't, but you can. Projects. List any projects you've worked on, including personal projects, open source projects, school projects. And then last but not least, honors and awards. Now, honors and awards, I changed to certificates, but you can say like certificates, honors, and awards. It doesn't really matter. They're kind of all talking about the same thing. Not bad. The last thing it does give you is references, and I don't generally put that on my resume. I don't think you need to. If you need to have if you need to provide references, usually they ask for that separately. So I don't put that on my resume. Last but not least, it gives me some tips. So it says, here are some tips from writing a strong software resume, keywords from the role, qualifying your accomplishments whenever possible, using strong action verbs, proofreading your resume. So I do like this helpful tip list. The only thing I wouldn't have done is references. Everything else is pretty standard. And the structure is not the best. But let's go ahead and use the Chat GPT or GPT-3 and see what it gives me. Okay, so this is less of a template and more of an example, but that's okay. I think both are valuable in their own right. But let's take a look at this and see what we're getting back. It gives me the name, address, email, and phone. Now notice this resume header is not the same as the Google resume header, and I take off points here, right? Address is not as important as your professional portfolio that you can find online, such as your GitHub or your LinkedIn. I would say the fact that address is there and GitHub and LinkedIn aren't, specifically because I asked for a software engineering role, right, as an example for the resume template, I'm taking off a point here for ChatGPT. Your objective is also your summary. I'm not going to read that. It looks pretty fine to me. Your skills, it gives you your concrete technical skills. Now, I do like this, right? I don't personally put my soft skills on my resume, and I do like having it more technical the better. So this looks very technical, listing out the languages that they've used for various reasons. Experience is pretty standard and straightforward. Education, it's actually pretty good. The last section is education. They don't have another section for honors and awards. They don't have a section for honors and awards. Projects, they don't have a project section. So they pretty much just have everything else but projects and awards. Yeah, that's correct. And that's interesting. I will say the uniqueness you're getting from Bard seems to be a lot more granular than ChatGPT. Right now, it looks very vague. Bard versus ChatGPT in terms of resume templates, I'm giving it to Bard. It was more unique. It was more accurate. They gave me tips, and I think the overall experience was better. Now, I will say this. The ChatGPT model might have been a little bit different if I had asked it through the actual ChatGPT website, but it doesn't work for me. I actually went back and asked the mobile version of ChatGPT which does give a little bit different responses in the playground. I do want to make that distinction to give me a resume for a software engineering role. And the information that came back, at least through the Chat GPT on my phone, was a lot better. If you can see, I asked for a resume template, software engineering role, and then it said certainly. It did make me feel at home. And then it gave me the full name, address, phone number, and email. Again, it's still missing the GitHub and the LinkedIn. It didn't give me examples this time. It just made it a template. I did like that. Under the experience section, it says, key responsibilities and achievements, accomplishments, and projects worked on. So it's templatized instead of an example. When it comes to that GitHub and LinkedIn, I like how Bard was able to add that bit for my resume header. In my book, Bard has taken the cake. And it's specifically when we're talking about using Bard or ChatGPT for career service based questioning. In Bard, it gave me links to where I could find these particular resources that it's pulling its information from. It gave me better structure and it gave me better customization for the content that I was asking for. Honestly, response wise for career service type information, I would use Bard. That concludes this competition, this friendly AI competition. If you liked it, subscribe. I'm going to be doing more content like this. So all in all, I think Bard wins this time. You win this time, Bard.